So I'm going to ask you a question. What do you do in the IEP meeting other than explain the results of your part of the evaluation? Hey everyone, Jenny Ponzuirc here with another Prepared School Psych podcast episode. Today, I wanted to discuss the IEP meeting, specifically the different roles in it. Many of you already know that I've been part of the school psychology world for over 25 years, and things change over time. When I first started in this field, I took on multiple roles in an IEP meeting. I facilitated the meeting, took the notes, explained my results, and I was in charge of most of the paperwork. Now, let's remember that IEP documents back then were usually less than 10 pages. Nowadays, I see our case managers and our LEA reps taking on more and more responsibility in the IEP meeting. So I'm going to ask you a question. What do you do in the IEP meeting other than explain the results of your part of the evaluation? Are you the IEP facilitator? This person typically runs the meeting by walking the team through the agenda, maintaining appropriate pacing throughout, and explaining each step, hopefully, in a parent-friendly manner. Are you the note taker? Do you document the discussion, the questions that are being asked, and the responses? I find that this role is often shared by more than one person, as it can be difficult to take down all of the notes. Are you the timekeeper? This person typically clarifies at the beginning of the meeting how much time is allotted and checks to see if there are any time limitations by anyone attending the meeting. They often keep track during the meeting and alert the team when they're getting close to that time limit. When it is apparent that the meeting will not be able to end at the agreed upon time, this person typically provides the different options. If we only need 10 more minutes, does everyone have 10 more minutes? Or in cases where that will not work, they will initiate one of my favorite games, the calendar game, and attempt to schedule part 2 of the meeting. Now, what are some suggestions when someone on your team needs some help in their role? Or if you think you might need some help in your role? So here are some quick tips. Number 1, if it is someone else on the team that needs help, I suggest asking permission to provide feedback. Make sure they're in the right headspace to even receive that feedback. You don't want to go into a conversation with someone who isn't willing to even receive that information. No one wants to waste their time. Tip number 2, focus on providing feedback on something that person has control over and provide concrete examples. We need better pacing in our meetings, or our meetings are too long, is kind of vague. What actually do you think took too long that could be shortened? Tip number 3, offer to role model either before or during the next meeting, or see if the person can observe another IEP meeting to see it in action. Many people sitting around the IEP table rarely get the opportunity to see others in their job-alike roles in an IEP meeting. Anytime I get the opportunity to see another psychologist present results, I'm always immediately noting what I liked about what they did. I remember once seeing a case manager expertly explain least restrictive environment in an IEP meeting, and I immediately thought of a different case manager who I thought needed to go to that person's next IEP meeting to really hear how well that LRE explanation was. Last but not least, positively reinforce and shape the behavior. Change doesn't happen overnight. Kids need reinforcement for baby steps, and typically, adults appreciate that too. Now, I hope this information and these tips were helpful. If you didn't get a chance to write everything down, no worries. Check the show notes and get access to the handout that summarizes this episode. And if you are already part of the Prepared School Psych community, check out our IEP report card page for the handout. Until next time. That concludes another episode of the Prepared School Psych podcast. And I hope today's discussion equipped you not just with knowledge, but also the confidence to take action. Remember, every conversation we have and every resource we share builds a bridge towards a more inclusive and empowering learning landscape for our students. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more insightful conversations and resources to support your journey. Share this podcast with colleagues. We would love it if you would also rate and review the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Just a reminder, everyone, the information and advice provided in this podcast are for guidance purposes only, and all listeners are required to follow both federal and state law and their own school district guidelines and policies. Thank you.